Welcome to the 9th episode of Shot Nostalgia, where we continue our drive back into the history of wrestling and fully immerse ourselves in a timeline. We are continuing our journey through 1996 WCW to relive one of the most memorable times to be a wrestling fan. As always, I'm the ace of the tavern, joined by my fellow time-traveling pal in Denver, Colorado, Mike Belcaster. What's up, man?
I'm in the mountains. I don't know. I'm Rocky Mountain High. I don't know.
John freaking Denver.
John freaking Denver, Rocky Mountain High. Yeah, no, I'm hanging out. I'm having a good time. It's pretty early here still. It's only 10:47, which is our normal Shot of Nostalgia time. Not to break the kayfabe here, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, no, this is great, man. I'm pumped that everything's working seamlessly, and I'm happy to be here with Ace, man.
Yeah, man, I'm so happy to have you here. And full disclosure, you are the hardest working man on the tavern. Like you're making shows on vacation, so everybody's got to step it up to meet your level. So rising tide lifts all ships, even on vacation. Mike Belcaster bringing you the hard hitting 1996 Shot Nostalgia content, man. I'm happy to have you here, and I can't wait to get into it.
Always pumped, man.
All right, so today we are reviewing the WCW April 22nd and the April 29th episodes of Nitro. And as you know, each week we will be reviewing 2 episodes, including a pay-per-view when they come up. Our next pay-per-view will be SLAMBOREE, which is only a week away. So we are 2 weeks away. So we have one more episode to go and then the go home. And we're going to get into what that card looks like because it's a wild concept. And I'm curious to see, as a fan, what you thought of it when you first heard about the Lethal Lottery, but we won't get too far ahead of ourselves. So we recommend you follow along by watching these episodes. You can even put them on in the background when you're enjoying this show. But yeah, we want you guys to experience it in real time like we are, because we're taking in a lot of really good stuff, but it's only going to get better as the summer increases towards, the NWO stuff. And clearly Scott Hall is on his way.
No, not Razor Ramon.
Maybe it's fake Razor because gimmicks don't matter, according to young Anthony, right? We don't want to open up that can of worms, right?
I mean, I was kind of dabbling in with that. I mean, it is the wrestler that makes the gimmick. It's got nothing to do with the gimmick itself. I mean, you think Hulkamania would have ran wild under Lex Luger? We're seeing it here. We've seen it in WWF.
That's the exact example I used. 1993, Lex Luger. They just gave him the real American gimmick, and it flopped. You give Baron Corbin that Roman Reigns head of the table gimmick, guess what? It's flopping. So
hell yeah,
Roman Reigns makes the gimmick. But we digress. That's not what we're here to talk about. Check out the Raw Down for those takes and all the controversial opinions that young Anthony brings out. He is our Bobby Heenan here on the tavern. We love him.
Love him
but
to death.
we're gonna pop into happy hour, and we're gonna discuss all the things in the newsletter because we have a lot to unpack here. All right. So as usual, we pop into the newsletter and we take the 2 latest editions of the newsletter written by Dave Meltzer from Wrestling Observer. And he's been doing it for a very long time. And despite the criticism here from some of our tavern alum, he has a lot of good stuff to talk about. But the first news story we want to talk about is not such a good thing. And we knew this was coming, and it has been the year of Brian Pillman. But we have some bad news to report here. Brian Pillman, this is the infamous car accident we talked about that changed the trajectory of his career and his life, really. So in the newsletter, Brian Pillman was thrown 40 feet from an open-air military vehicle he was driving on April 15th, and at press time was hospitalized in Cincinnati with multiple fractures and lacerations. So they described the accident. His condition was said to not be life-threatening, but there was no speculation about the status of his wrestling career. There were no other details available at the press time. So there's going to be more details in the next newsletter. But do you remember where you were when you heard this news and how you felt about it when it happened?
I don't remember exactly where I was, but I do remember hearing about it, and I was confused. I was very devastated. I was like, wait, Brian Pillman got into a car wreck? Like, what's going on? Obviously, we've seen it happen dozens of times throughout the years. We got Eddie Guerrero and all this stuff, like bad stuff. I was hoping for the best for Pillman. I really was. I was hoping that things were going to be better. I didn't expect to go the direction it did. That was the crazier part.
Yeah. So, and Meltzer conjectures over here that he says that it could not be a worse time for this injury to happen, because as of press time of the newsletter, his contract with WCW was expiring that exact week, and there was dialogue going on regarding a new deal, and would no doubt make WCW a little skeptical about re-signing him. And he had also reached an agreement with ECW where he would work for that group provided he didn't reach a deal with WWF. So he's in all camps. He's been playing this angle. We talked about work, shoot, all that stuff. He played WCW against itself and figured out a way to get maximum contract, guaranteed money, all of that. All comes crashing down with his injury. We know eventually WWF takes a risk on him and he gets back into the ring. It never really was the same again for him. And I think this is where we saw the sort of the beginning of the end for Pillman, unfortunately, because only a year later he'd be leaving this earth. So terrible, terrible setback here for him.
Yeah, no, heartbreaking. Very much so. Across the whole board. I mean, we lost not just Pillman the performer, but I mean, eventually we lose Pillman the person. And I would definitely say it was due to this car accident. I feel like this is what really got him diving into the pain pills and all those addictions and shit like that. And like, that's sad. Nobody wants to think about that.
Yeah, very, very sad. And we'll talk a little bit more in the next section of the newsletter, but we're going to move on here. And we've been talking about the World Wrestling Peace Festival that's been trying to be arranged in Los Angeles with Anthony Inoki. And we talked about the tie-ins we can make to Forbidden Door, which is coming up in just 11 days, or I think at 9 days at this point. There's been some discussions regarding changing the date until later in the year. But by the time the reports had surfaced publicly regarding that, the decision not to do it has been made several weeks later. Obviously, we're having WCW, WWF, CMLL, AAA all having a hard time getting together and coming to a decision. We're seeing that happen in real time today, where Andrade and Penta and Phoenix are not being allowed to compete at Forbidden Door. But I guess to close the loop on this, we will talk about when it does happen a few short weeks later. What are your feelings on the fact that, again, WWF and WCW just can't put their differences aside for the betterment of wrestling?
Yeah, no, it's weird. I kind of get where AAA is coming from nowadays, but I mean, Penta Phoenix are AEW's top tag team, one of them at least. I mean, I hold them higher than the Young Bucks. I think they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Andrade's kind of been pissing in the wind over there. You know, he's had his matches. He's been entertaining. Don't get me wrong, but he just hasn't been featured the way I would have expected him to be. You know, he came in hot, and then they kind of put the damp towel on him to simmer him down a little bit. Crazy. It's weird. Back then, I mean, there was so much heat and animosity among all companies, so it's totally understandable. But I mean, this day and age, I mean, AAA's been featured on AEW all the time. It's a mind fuck for me, because it's like, why wouldn't you want the exposure?
Yeah,
I've ordered more AAA pay-per-views in the last 2 years than I've ever. You know, like I watch them. They're enjoyable. They're fun to watch. You know, good featured talent. A lot of AEW people are there, so why not return the favor? It's just weird.
It's such a weird situation. It's very similar. The reason we bring it up is because of the fact that this is the issue we're seeing all the way back in 1996. The other thing that is apropos to today, obviously, you guys have heard the news in the past that Money in the Bank was moved from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, the bigger stadium, to a smaller venue. We saw the same thing here. Writing was on the wall that Antonio Inoki and the crew could not sell out the 90,000 Los Angeles Coliseum. That was the bigger venue. They decided to switch to the Sports Arena, which legitimately drew 16,742 for its last pro wrestling show in 1993. So they're hoping that they may not get 90, which was the original intention. We talked about in the beginning. Potentially could have drew 100,000 if you had WCW and WWF in the same building. Now we're talking about we're lucky if we get 17. So a huge drop from what they probably expected from the beginning when this was drawn up.
Yeah, no, really, really. I mean, I think it's more crazier that WWE went to MGM. Like that
is wild.
MGM's a very small arena. Like we've seen it before. It was featured on AEW and I mean past WCW events. But yeah, it's crazy. But it is a big hit for all parties involved in the Super Show. You know, in 96, 97. I mean, I was expecting great things. I was hoping for great things, and it just kind of fell short. It really did. It sucks. There was a lot of setbacks, including WWF not being there, ECW not being there. And then you get this venue issue. I mean, if you had a big big card, solid ass card. Shawn Michaels versus Inoki, whatever that is,
Right.
Diesel versus Inoki would have still made it good. But I think I just think it really just took away from the fun of it all, man. For a fan, I think that as a fan, it would have been the best shit ever. Imagine getting a shirt from back in the day that had WWF, WCW logos on it. You're fucking mind blown.
That's what dreams are made of, man. These dream matches. And you talked about the card, you referenced it. We have 5 matches been added to the card as of April of 1996. Lex Luger versus Masa Saito, The Giant versus Sting, Tatsumi Fujami versus Black Cat, and Tony Inoki and Dan Severn versus Fujiwara and Greg Pittman, and Great Suzuki versus Alex Wright. And the previously announced matches have gone unchanged. And right now we have Akira Hokuto and Lola Gonzalez and versus Bulbacano and Nefeltai, a whole bunch of other AAA guys. Other notable names, we have Ultimate Dragon on the card, Psychosis, Conan. I think Rey Mysterio eventually appears on the card. He's not in this list over here. Point being is the Giant versus Sting isn't a dream match. You could have that match at any given time. I think we've seen the match multiple times on WCW television. So what went from a dream scenario just became just another event in an inundated market of wrestling. So it just became, it took away all the buzz, and it's a shame because of what it could have been.
No, absolutely. And come on, you have the Road Warriors. I would have taken the Nasty Boys in a tag match with somebody from New Japan. Like, you had all this talent. WCW was swimming in talent, So it's just mind blowing that they couldn't make better matches, book a better card, for God's sakes. I mean, nobody wants to watch all the AAA guys wrestle AAA guys. Nobody wants to watch the Giant wrestle Sting. Nobody, it's you can watch it on Nitro. You don't got to leave your house for it. Why fucking buy a ticket for it?
So we don't like to talk about modern day too much. I know we tie it in sometimes, but compare it to today. Are you disappointed in the bill for Forbidden Door, or do you think that they've righted the wrong that this probably could have been, or do you think it's just somewhere in the middle?
I think I'm going to go in the middle. I think it's cool. I think is it Tanahashi? Tanahashi versus
Tanahashi.
Yep. Tanahashi. Thank you. Yeah, but I mean that's going to be great. We got Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay. Like it's a little weird. Don't get me wrong. Not shitting on it because I love Orange and I love Ospreay. It's going to be great. And I don't know. It's just a little. AEW's builds have just been lackluster lately. I mean, even with Double or Nothing, we didn't know shit until 2 weeks before the show. Like we got little pieces here and there, but we didn't get the full card until like that week. So it's hard to judge it still a week out. Who knows? I'm kind of hollering at him.
You got a little hollering at there, but it looks like you're back.
Apologize. Yeah.
No, that's okay. But so the sentiment remains the same, is that it should be dream matches. It's not. Forbidden Door feels the same way. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great event. I am certainly watching, but will it be revolutionary and game-changing like this could have been? No. And I think maybe if you can get the game-changing thing to compare this to it, if we get a Roman Reigns versus a Kenny Omega on a stage that's shared by both companies, that would be revolutionary. That would be game-changing. And that's what this could have been. But now we're taking a huge step back where we might sell out 16,000 seats. We might, but who knows?
Yeah. No, it's messy. I mean, even with the Jay White situation, Adam Cole looked really childish this week. And again, I don't like to jump too far in I missed the wrap up. You got to give me a minute. But Adam Cole, like, they're doing that shit. Like,
all good, man. And like dumb. We talked about on the wrap up, and I think I called him a geek. The Chads called him dork. That's how they're booking Adam Cole. But again, let's move towards the rest of the newsletter. So they have the April 15th Nitro from Charleston, West Virginia. Had 8,040 fans, 6,381 paying, $67,152, which are phenomenal numbers considering there was a tornado watch in town at the time of the show. Had more controversy behind the scenes than in front. Coming into the April 1st show where Hogan and Booty Man were booed out of Cleveland, the talk once again surfaced to turn him heel. Due to miscommunications, both Hogan and Booty no-showed the April 3rd Birmingham WCW Saturday Night tapings, and Hogan sent word that he had a movie deal that would take him out of action until August, and plans were made for him to do the serious ankle injury on April 15th show, and for him to be ridden out of all plans. There was a lot of internal belief that using him every Monday night was a situation that would be turned into diminishing and lack of returns, and use him on a special feature. Moral of the story is they're getting desperate. They're recognizing that this whole run of him being a face is not working. I think they are suggesting him turning heel. They don't know what it could look like. They don't know how successful it could be, because we all can look at it through rose-colored glasses right now, and with the hindsight being what it is, we know it worked out, but there was a inherent risk of turning your cash cow heel.
Yeah.
So what's your feelings on that?
I mean, it worked, so it's hard to argue with it. I mean, NWO is possibly one of the biggest merch deals ever for any company. WCW, WWE. I mean, I met Kevin Nash in like 2010, 2012, and he was telling me about this. He's like, the reason why Vince put the kibosh on NWO was because they were selling more shirts than everybody in the company. And it was like, what? That's crazy, you know. But I mean, they're merch gods. They are marketable. They had everything in their field. They had Dennis Rodman. You know, they brought in pop culture references. They changed the whole look of WCW to a point where they almost changed the company to the New World Order wrestling organization, and that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it just shows the impact they had. And by the way, Kevin Nash, top 5 big guy of all time. Do you agree with that?
Hell yeah. Easily.
Yeah,
top 3, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Love Kevin Nash, and he's more than the Diesel gimmick. But again, shots fired on the road down. You guys deserve it. So if you're watching Friday night, put yourself in the comments. Defend yourself. This is our platform. Defending Kevin Nash. He's a god here in WCW.
You go watch Kevin Nash dress up as Arn Anderson and say that's not fucking good.
Legendary
gold. Yeah, you're crazy.
So here in the newsletter, it's appearing again. There is talk of Nitro going for 2 hours every Monday night. The idea behind it is that TNT would increase its weekly payment to WCW for the second hour, which would make WCW even more profitable. And with the added money, they can acquire even more talent. It would also give them a 1 hour jump on Titan, since the hour would be in place of Thunder in Paradise. Even if 2 hours is overexposure from a wrestling standpoint, from a TNT standpoint, an hour of Nitro would do double the ratings of Thunder. So we know eventually they go to 2 hours. They eventually go to 3, which we know 3 hours is way too much. But this changes the landscape, because both Raw and Nitro are both 1 hour. I think that 2 hours is the sweet spot. Are you with that as well? I think 2 hours was the perfect spot to be for them.
Oh, absolutely. I think 2 hours is absolutely the sweet spot, because you get enough content, not enough, like there's not too many commercial breaks. It's not too much, you know, it's not, I think it's just enough time to base a story without over drowning it. You know, like you watch a Raw nowadays, it's like, you're like, what am I doing? Like, give me something good. And now it's but you watch AEW, loaded show. WCW was the same way, very loaded show. Raw was like lacking, even though they were shorter. It felt too much, and then like Raw really hit the sweet spot when they did the 2 hour show too. You know, it kicked. It clicked in very well.
Yeah. So also the newsletter, there is a note saying it's 99% sure that WCW will be moving its base of operations from Atlanta to Orlando, which we do realize does happen, and become a regular part of one of the theme parks. They'd have regular wrestling exhibition at the park, which would give the younger wrestlers time to perform in front of an audience to give them needed experience. Sounds very, very familiar. Similar to
levels.
you know, a lot of different companies, what they're doing now. But I think WCW recognized that you could teach these guys all you want on the power plant. You can show them what they should do and bump wise, but it's not the same unless you get in front of an audience, and you have a built-in audience here at Universal. You can have people built in, give them a free admission to the show. They happen to be there for the day. Take a little break in the AC from the sun, the hot sun in Florida, and then you have a built-in crowd, and then you may build a fan. Even if one of 30 people that pop in that door turn on Nitro the next day, you're making good business there.
Absolutely. I mean, come on. Even TNA was selling merch out of there. You know, people would walk away, go in there blind, walk away as a fan, buy a T-shirt. I mean, buy a figure, buy whatever it is, the little posters. Like, I think that it's a great business plan, man. As long as it's not costing the company too much money, I think it's beneficial. It's super beneficial, and I don't think it costs them that much money, because they have a sound stage. They have free, you know, fans coming in that are part of the theme park pass. You got wrestlers working on TV in front of crowds. It's a great concept. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, it's great. And you get rid of all the traveling fees that, we saw in the COVID era of wrestling, that WWE was making record profits because you get rid of the house show circuit. You get rid of the travel expense of putting these guys up, traveling them, not to mention building the stage again and again and again. You just have the Thunderdome that just exists there for months and months. But you mentioned the Giant too. I think it was off air just about him winning the championship. And we will talk about that. You guys can see it in the graphic here that he does get his second reign underway. And of course, we will get into that. Meltzer is talking about how beneficial it would be for the Giant as a young wrestler to go to New Japan, especially with the open door policy. We see a lot of the WCW talent these last 2 weeks go over to New Japan. That's why the second Nitro we're going to be reviewing is actually taped, because most of them are over in New Japan working there. Like Macho Man's there, all that good stuff. So he says Giant's the type of wrestler who is better if he isn't around every week. Secondly, if he works in Japan regularly, he'll develop much faster as a worker and performer. It'll also increase WCW's leverage in maintaining strong ties with New Japan, since Giant, if he goes there regularly, will get over big. So sounds very familiar today, and it rings very, very true. Do you think that guys do develop faster if they go to New Japan and work that style? Or do you think it's just the travel and it's not as much pressure as being on TV on a weekly basis here? Like for the Giant, as a 25-year-old, there's got to be a lot of pressure being thrust into the main event, despite your size. Like, he's gifted athletically. That's got to be challenging when you don't have that many years under your belt of being a professional wrestler.
Yeah, no, 100%. When I was 25, I didn't know whether it was shit or wine my watch. You're a kid, but I don't know. It's part of going to New Japan, but it's also going to a different company. You see people on the indies. Did Cody become good just because he was working New Japan? No, Cody became great because he was working Ring of Honor. Your local indies. He was working New Japan. He was going to Canada. He was traveling all over the place, learning what it takes to become the guy. And I think it would have been so beneficial for the Giant, because somebody like him, like an Andre the Giant, even they're an attraction piece.
Right.
It's something you want to not have every month, but even if him being a world champion, if he was on two or one Nitros a month. And at the pay-per-view, people were like, let's see what he does. And then he was traveling the rest of the time. Why not? Only makes sense.
The Big Show, the Giant, Paul White, they definitely overexposed him because he should be an attraction. The size of him, what he can do in the ring. I'll say it all day, every day. He has more athletic gifts than a guy like Andre the Giant, but Andre the Giant was protected as an attraction where Big Show wasn't. They turned him heel, they turned him face. He was beaten on TV. That never happened with Andre. So if you put Big Show way back in the day, I think he gets over even in a bigger way because of the fact of he can do so much more. And I know that's probably blasphemous for people to hear, but I just think the stuff that Big Show can do, Andre could never think about doing. We got Big Show, even these days, going off the top rope, hitting drop kicks, cross bodies. And he can do a moonsault too. That's another thing. I'm sure you've seen it as well.
Yeah. No, Captain Sano shows no mercy, man.
Shows no mercy. But I agree with you, man. I think that a lot of what you could say about everyone in life, it's not just wrestling, exposure to other cultures and exposure to other people and perspectives goes a very long way. So to grow up in your little tiny bubble of WCW, take Big Show, for example, or the Giant, I should say, just growing up in that Atlanta WCW bubble, not learning how to wrestle anywhere else, it's detrimental. Like, could he be successful? Would he be continuing to be successful? Of course. But look at someone like The Miz, right? The Miz only wrestles one style. So if it doesn't work, it worked out for him. He's a millionaire. He's a reality TV star again, twice over. And he's probably a Hall of Famer in WWE by their standards. But he would be such a better wrestler if you would have all right, so you learned how to wrestle WWE style, but can you wrestle in New Japan? Can you wrestle AAA style? Can you be more expansive? Some guys' repertoire becomes that much better when they travel overseas, and I'll stand by that.
No, 1,000%. We've seen people come into, AEW even now, and their work rate looks like shit, just because they're coming from somewhere they've been forever, or they're just they're trying something new that's not in their repertoire. It's you got to go and do the work. I hate to be the Cody Rhodes or the Rhodes family guy that's like, do the work, brother, but you have to go do the work to get better. You don't just make money without learning your trade, man.
Cody wouldn't be where he is if he didn't do his time on those indies, working every booking he could get, like in local Jersey high schools, in Ring of Honor, New Japan, wherever he can get a booking. He was working on not only his in-ring work, but his character work and showing up and being a professional wrestler. And that can't be understated for the Giant to work with the media in Japan and like do the travel and learn different styles. And there's other guys that you can learn from the legends in WCW, but there's Japanese legends that you could have learned from as well, just by traveling over there and like picking their brain. It's
100%.
immensely like beneficial in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, look how good the Road Warriors got.
Right.
You know, they traveled all over the world and they were just badass dudes. I mean, it goes for anybody that's done it. And those media scrums after a New Japan show, those are some of the best wrestling content you can get in life. Like, I love that shit. So, I mean, you learn to talk and you learn to talk on your own dime. They're not out there translating for like, you need to say this. It's just like, no, you go out there and fucking, oh, I'm the Giant, you know, and you're like, yeah, dude, like, fucking love this guy.
All right, so moving on here, that's a good conversation, probably for another time. We could probably have a debate on that about thinking about guys that would have benefited from going overseas. But Eric Bischoff made several statements and interviews in the Miami Herald and the Charleston Post over the past week. Like McMahon, Bischoff seems to be working some sort of storyline of his own. He ripped Kevin Nash, saying reports of $700,000 3-year deal aren't true. So Bischoff trying to have a surprise going in. I think he wants Nash and Hall coming in to be a shock because that's where ratings come, where anything could happen on Nitro. If it's a predetermined conclusion that he's showing up on Nitro, it takes away the buzz. So I guess learning from Brian Pillman, he's trying to figure out a way to create some sort of mixed reality, blurring the lines, and Bischoff was the best at that. So I don't know. What is your take on all of that stuff, trying to create a diversion a little bit on Bischoff's part?
I don't think it was a bad idea. I think it was a good idea. You want to captivate the audience in the best way possible while making the most revenue out of it. Why would you spoil it ahead of time? It's like that's where the one flaw with dirt sheets are now, is because it's like, oh, everything's reported right away. Like, oh, you know, Sasha Banks is joining AEW tomorrow, and everybody's like, oh, cool. And then it doesn't happen for like 2 weeks, but they're already expecting it. So it kills the whole vibe. Nobody wants that. Like when Jeff Hardy left WWF or WWE, and they're like, see, I'm mixing timelines now. But Jeff Hardy leaves WWE and he goes to AEW. It wasn't as important as it would have been if he was just like, holy shit, Jeff Hardy walked out of this WWE show and now he showed up in an AEW house show, like, you know, or an AEW, you know, television. It just takes away from everything.
The 90-day non-compete takes away a lot of the drama that we talk about. So, but I mean, I give him credit for at least trying to create a surprise. I mean, the Cody stuff, there was enough of surprise where like everybody knew he was showing up at WrestleMania, but you still didn't know. Yeah. There was a piece of it, but just interesting by Bischoff. I wanted to note that here in the newsletter. Rounding off this version of the newsletter on April 22nd, we have Randy Savage making his debut on Cartoon Network's Dial M for Monkey, which is a special on April 21st. Not familiar with this cartoon. Do you have any memory of this at all?
You know what? When you first brought it up to me, I was like, man, it sounds so familiar. And then, like, the more and more I think about it, I do remember it, but I wasn't like stoked that the Macho Man was joining the cartoon. But it's one of those things you listen to, or when you watch like Adult Swim, when you get older and you hear that character voice, you're like, of course you're gonna love the Macho Man and anything. Oh yeah, what's up, brother? Dial M for murder, brother. It's great.
So, I mean, the point being is bringing it up is Randy Savage is thinking about an idea and I guess a career motive outside of wrestling. And I think a lot of guys took a page from that book, maybe more successfully than Randy did. Obviously, we look at The Rock and Cena and even a guy like Dave Bautista. But Randy Savage, I mean, you have to give him some credit for being a trailblazer here, that he walked through and was taking these spots. And we talked about the Slim Jim thing last week. He made wrestling a little bit more accessible in a different direction. You're not just sort of pigeonholed into being a pro wrestler. You're able to enter different media things. And who's more charismatic than him to be doing these cartoon voices? It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have WWF did a Bret Hart interview late in the week, which aired on the April 15th Raw, largely to quell rumors of him going to WCW. Hart even set the stage by saying another wrestling company is throwing lots of money around and portrayed the guys who are leaving as being greedy. Only bringing that up because we have the benefit of hindsight to look back or look forward into the future. We know Brett does leave. He'll argue that it's not because he wanted to, but because he was forced. But I find it interesting that even back in 1996, this is out there and people are talking about it.
No, they were definitely planting seeds, whatever the fuck it was for. And it turned out to be Bret Hart's worst career mistake ever. Obviously, we got to see it. And it's just crazy, man. Absolutely crazy to see that it was teased so far back.
All right, so moving on to the April 29th, 1996 newsletter, we have another Brian Pillman update. So he was released from the University Hospital in Cincinnati on the 19th of April after rolling his Humvee 4 nights earlier and suffering numerous injuries, the most serious, which was a crushed ankle. So some details here are gruesome a bit. I'm just going to give you guys the lowdown because just to give you guys a glimpse of how serious the injury was and what he did overcome to get back into the ring a few short months later. So when the police and medics found Pillman Monday night, moments after taking a 40-foot fall after being ejected as the vehicle rolled, he had lost so much blood that those who found him believed he wasn't going to make it. His face was so swollen earlier in the week that even his sister couldn't have identified him, and there was initial fear the fall could have done damage to the spinal cord, which could have been a crippling injury. He was in the burns unit at the hospital of the week and originally in the intensive care, although his condition was quickly upgraded by the end of the week after surgery, which included taking bone from his hip to reconstruct the ankle. He was told that the long-term prognosis was good and that the injury shouldn't be serious enough to threaten his wrestling career. He was allowed to go home from the hospital that weekend. So we're going to talk about other things that he had been going on in his medical past, but that news right there, even at the fact that it appeared in the newsletter, might have got him that contract with WWF because they said, hey, it's bad now, but he'll be fine in the future and he can wrestle.
100%. The accident kind of pulled him away from WCW, I think, and WWF jumped on it because they knew he was going to be beneficial to them in the future. So absolutely crazy that he was able to get through that and get back in the ring for the short time he did. That's fucking wild, man.
Crazy. And there's even more injuries I'm going to read here. So Pillman, who had undergone his 34th throat operation just a few weeks earlier related to a throat condition he had as a young child, which is why his voice is so raspy, underwent facial plastic surgery to repair some of the bone fractures in his face, which included a broken nose, a fractured cheekbone, and a dislocated jaw. The surgery included having his jaw wired shut for approximately 1 week. Pillman, who was wearing a heavy Harley biker jacket when ejected, believed that the thickness of the jacket saved him from far more serious injuries, as the jacket itself was torn to shreds. He also felt fortunate the injuries weren't worse, and that for whatever reason he wasn't wearing a seatbelt at the time that he rolled the Humvee after striking a tree stump in the field on Route 338 in Kentucky near his home. The vehicle was destroyed and was told by police, had he be wearing a seatbelt and had not been thrown from the vehicle, he would have been crushed. So doctors told Pillman it'll be 8 weeks before he can start rehabbing the ankle and perhaps another month before he can get back into the ring. So, man, so much to even talk about there. Just wanted to paint the picture just to show where he was and what he came back from, just to because I always knew the accident existed, but doing more research, this guy's tough as nails, man. It's insane.
No, listen, I've heard plenty of cases of car accidents where leather jackets are. That's why they make the motorcycle jackets out of leather. They protect you from that concrete. This is wild, and the fact that he was not crushed like a bug when he got into the collision. I mean, what luck that guy had. It's fucking absolutely mind blowing, man.
So to kind of round it out over here, doctors told Pillman that I told you about the 8 weeks. Just want to talk about this. Pillman, who is a small bone person, has had problems with the ankle stemming back from a previous ankle injury that ended his pro football career when he was playing with the Calgary Stampeders in the Canadian Football League. As luck would have it, the ankle injury turned into the best career break of his life because it led to Bruce Hart and Stampede Wrestling, where he started his career in 1987. Pillman became a far bigger star and earned more money in pro wrestling than he ever could have hoped in pro football due to his size as a lineman. It is believed that the ankle reconstruction, that his ankle will be stronger than it had previously because it had never been 100% since the football injury. So again, reports here again, doctor's note probably says the same thing. WWF is like, let's give him the money. Coming back. What's better than a redemption story to Vince McMahon?
No, absolutely. I mean, what's better than a redemption story for Brian Pillman as well? Crazy.
So now we talk about the Giant who was captured the title from Ric Flair, and we will talk about the results in the match and everything that went into it. I just listened to 83 Weeks, the episode about SLAMBOREE 1996, because I wanted a little bit insight from the man himself, Eric Bischoff. And Conrad Thompson asked him straight out, what was the plan? Why did you put the title on the Giant? And do you have an answer for that? Do you think you have a reason why they did it? Mike Belcast, if you had to guess?
I would say because he's an mentally, me being a booker, I would say it's because he's an attraction piece and he is the biggest guy on the roster. Who else can they do it to besides a Ric Flair or a Sting or, a Luger?
Yeah, so Meltzer has his own take on it, but this is from Eric Bischoff's mouth almost 20, 25, 30 years later. He says it's just because he wanted to be that the title could change hands. He wanted a surprise. Didn't care who it was. It happened to be booked that it was the Giant. Could have been anybody. He just wanted the title to change hands that week on Raw, on Nitro, because he wanted that to be the case. And he wanted to build a brand that you had to tune in, which he did establish eventually, and weeks would get crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
But it's just wild to me because Meltzer says here, the decision to go with the Giant as champion was made at least several weeks back, as apparently the Giant versus Sting main event match for SLAMBOREE pay-per-view was always going to be for the world title. No doubt the decision to have it happen when it did stems from the idea that the word would have get out since it was taped, and it would lead to a ratings boost on the Nitro for 4 weeks to a 7 p.m. start because of TNT's commitments to the NBA playoffs and immediately established a time slot to wrestling fans. We see the connection with the playoffs and all that stuff with the ratings. We hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Especially with, the fact that it airs TBS and TNT air the NBA playoffs and Dynamite's always battling that. I don't know. For me, if a title changes happen, it takes away the effect.
Yeah.
So it was taped, but to me, it does the opposite for me. And I don't know if that's the same for you.
Well, no, I totally agree with you. I think there's a nostalgic throwback to if you've seen somebody was getting a title like the Giant, you kind of had to watch. Like you go to Shivani with Mick Foley. He reads off Mick Foley's gonna win. That'll put butts in seats, and everybody's like, fuck off, like, and they turn the channel on them. So I mean, the spoiler was a different beast back in 96, 97, 98, 99. Way different than it is now. Now people don't want to be spoiled, but back then they were clamoring for it because it was like they had inside information. Like, bro, you're gonna want to watch Nitro. The Giant's gonna win the title, and people would be like, "What fuck are you? Like, you don't know what you're talking about." And then it would be like, boom, and it would be it. So I see it working good. For
it's an interesting way to think about it. You kind of move my thinking to the other direction, but. Just for lineage wise, they always talk about the Giant being one of the youngest world champions ever, but Meltzer goes into business for himself and talks about the history of wrestling. I thought this was very interesting because I'm a geek for that kind of stuff as well. For those interested in such things and considering the WCW as the descendant of the most widely recognized pro wrestling world title, the Giant wouldn't be the youngest ever to win the title. That is believed to be Lou Thesz, who won it for the first time in 1937 when he was 21 years old. So I think Tom watched that live. So he can let us know how the match was. But he's the first rookie ever to hold the title and one of the youngest wrestlers ever. Both Tommy Rich, who held the title for a few days in 1980, and Kerry Von Erich, who held it for a few weeks in 1984, were 24. Giant has had one pro match on Larry Sharp Indy a few years ago, but for all real purposes, his pro debut was on October 29th, 1995 in the match against Hogan at Halloween Havoc in Detroit. So he would have captured the title in his 6 month in the ring. That's perspective right there, really, to think about. The only guy I can think of that rose faster probably would be Kurt Angle, but even Kurt Angle didn't win the world title until the end of his first year. 6 months passed. Just shows, you get size. He won the genetic lottery, I would say.
Yeah.
The Giant walks away with the world title.
Yeah, 100%. Wild, man.
It winds up being, in retrospect, like if he winds up not being the guy he was and the Hall of Famer and the legendary career he had across 2 different promotions, it probably would look bad. Like say this was, who was the guy we talked about the other day? The big fat guy that was feuding with
Loch Ness.
Yeah. Loch Ness. Say they put the title on Loch Ness here. Like it probably had the same effect. Loch Ness had more in-ring experience than the Giant at the time, which is crazy to even talk about.
Yeah. No, they're just making stars, man.
Just making stars. So the other thing we have here, we have 3 matches scheduled for SLAMBOREE 1996, which is going to be airing on May 19th in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, near New Orleans. So We have Ric Flair and Randy Savage versus Arn Anderson and Eddie Guerrero, which on paper looks to be the best of the so-called blind draw matches. Hugh Morris and Ming versus Diamond Dallas Page. And then we also have the Cruiserweight title match is scheduled as Brad Armstrong versus Dean Malenko. I'll talk about the Cruiserweight title in a second, about how they crowned the first ever champion. Strange bedfellows type of stuff with wrestling, where you do the lethal lottery and you draw different partners. We see Road Warrior Animal versus Road Warrior Hawk on this pay-per-view. Spoiler alert. Do you remember them doing this? And did it have any appeal to see tag partners wrestling each other on pay-per-view? To me, it has no appeal, especially since they didn't do the drawing on TV. It just like they just told you the matches were happening.
No, it was. I remember it when it happened. I remember. We go back to the character makes the gimmick. The only reason why I wanted to see the Road Warriors fight each other because I knew they're two badass motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like that's it. There's the only appeal to that. I don't want to see them go on singles runs. Like you have to keep the Road Warriors together. Like why would you split Animal and Hawk? But whatever, it is what it is. But they were just trying to make up a little controversy, I guess.
Yeah. So bring it today. Would you be a fan of on pay-per-view Dax and say Matt Jackson versus Nick Jackson and Cash?
No.
Like, is there any draw to that for you?
No, not at all. It'd be weird.
All right, so
yeah,
it's the same concept here, and it kind of
Cash
sucks.
versus Dax. Yeah,
Killer.
Watch that.
Probably one of the matches of the year.
Yeah, they'd probably tear the shit down. Matt versus Nick, probably tear the house down. But putting them in a tag team with another tag, no, I'm good.
So we had the first ever Cruiserweight champion being crowned here in WCW, but it was done overseas in New Japan. So we have a Shinjiro Otani pinning Wild Pegasus, who we know is Chris Benoit, in 18 minutes and 9 seconds to become the first WCW Cruiserweight champion. Meltzer notes that the crowd was kind of dead for the first half of the match and the work was good. The crowd finally got into it when Pegasus used 3 German suplexes in a row and Otani kicked out. Pegasus used a superplex off the top rope and a diving headbutt off the top, and Otani kicked out again. We eventually saw just the end where Otani finally got the pin after a springboard DDT in mid-ring where he planted him. Meltzer said it's an excellent finishing sequence. Chris Benoit wrestling as the Wild Pegasus is always a good time. Anytime you see Benoit in the ring, very, very cool. He says this is a hair below the match of the year level of Otani Liger, but still excellent in its own right. So I bring this to today with the All-Atlantic Championship. Say they crown the champion and say they bring the title over and Wrestle Kingdom, you get the first championship crown. Do you think that has any sort of effect, positive or negative, on the AEW brand or the title?
Positive. Only positive.
This felt like exclusive. The fact that the Cruiserweight champion came over, like I won it in Japan and I'm bringing it over to the States.
Absolutely. If say Ethan Page was the guy, right, and they did it in Canada, it would be huge, absolutely huge. And that's what you want. You want the guy winning the title to do it in his hometown, so he gets the babyface pop. Unless you're booking him as a heel, and you want him to get over. That's what wrestling's all about.
100%. So it appears Hulk Hogan won't be around until August, as he's taking time off to do a movie. We know he comes back earlier than that, which is funny that it's in the news report. And apparently the movie he's filming is Santa with Muscles. That's what I had read. So Hogan will be gone, and I think it's for the better. We noted that before, that fans are getting sick of him. We're having issues with getting a return on investment is how they put it, but it's not going great for Hogan. So they talked about how they've been going back and forth if he should be off TV. Hogan saying he should be on TV, but he also wants to come back as sooner than later because he believes he can get the character over again because he's stubborn or he's worked in the past. It's going to go back to the well 1,000 times. And he wants the money as well. So the tentative plan is for Hogan to return on the August pay-per-view against either Scott Hall or Kevin Nash in their new role, although that will change 50 times between now and then. If Monday ratings drop, they probably will, even though there's no head-to-head due to earlier time combined, would cause a panic, and Hogan probably would be forced to come back earlier. So it's funny that Meltzer is conjecturing, and I'm sure in the back they were talking about as well, that Hogan was going to be the main face taking on these two heels coming in. Little did we know, months later, it'd be proved that they would be the most dynamic trio that's ever been in pro wrestling.
Yeah. Mind-boggling, right? It's crazy.
It's crazy. And I know people want to rip on Meltzer, and like all the time we have people on the Tavern saying he's wrong, but he has information at the time. Things do change over time. Like he's only reporting the information that comes his way.
Yeah, that was the source back in the day. Now there's multiples. There's too many to count. There's Joe Dirt has his own dirt sheet.
And I think this is proof that a lot of what he does have sources. Whether he still has sources today or not, that's to be debated. But at least with the stuff here, a lot of it rings true. Like he talks about stuff that happens 5, 6, 7 months out.
Yeah.
And like clearly someone's whispering in his ear. Little birdie. All right. We're going to wrap up the rest of the newsletter. We have something here with Eric Bischoff in an interview with Mike Mooneyham on the Wrestling Observer hotline. Talked about his side of the Mark Merrow leaving. So we did talk about Merrow at the airport saying he wants to be a star. And Bischoff said, good luck. We tried our best and you're not a star. This is a quote. People want to jump all over this thing and paint Eric Bischoff as Satan because that's a kind of in vogue right now. But Johnny came to me and expressed his concern. And what did we do? We changed it. If you look at the television, it's quite obvious. We didn't have a problem with it. I was concerned that he was taking his professional on-camera life way too seriously. He had a problem with Kimberly as his valet because he doesn't know how to answer to his daughter. I understand that. We made the change. But what happens if we need him to take on a different character? Where is the line? How do we know what we can do with talent that we don't know what talent's personal life will become an issue and be affected by it? That's the issue that I brought up, and we resolved the issue. That was not the issue between Johnny and me. He's bringing it up because he wants to make it appear he was justified in making the decision he made. But the reality is that we overcame the problem, moved on in an entirely different direction. So Meltzer says, I believe both Merrow and Bischoff would both agree that the aspect regarding him asking for Kimberly to be taken away from him was overplayed by a lot of people regarding being a significant reason Merrow left the promotion. It really had to do with money and Titan giving him more. So, man, a lot to talk about there. The drama, he still talks about Merrow. They both talk badly about each other. On 83 weeks, that SLAMBOREE episode, he comes up again. He takes the high road a little bit. But I think Bischoff made the right decision. Like, Mark Merrow never became the star he thought he could be. He did get paid. Good for him. But he never became the star.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. Sneed would say, grow up, man.
Grow up, Mark Merrow. He says, the other thing I want to bring up, and because I don't think it comes up in this episode, didn't appear in the newsletter. I did hear him say this one thing. Did you know that the original intention for the Glacier character was going to be Rob Van Dam? Did you know that?
I did not.
Can you imagine that happened? It would have ruined RVD's career. Would have been typecast into that Sub-Zero type of character, or he would have got it over. Who knows?
Or Glacier would have been the biggest fucking thing in the 90s.
I still believe if Glacier came out the year before, it would be the biggest character in pro wrestling at the time. It just it missed because two ships in the night. You have Scott Hall coming out in his jean jacket, being cool as hell, and you got Glacier, who's like could have been cool the year before. It's just like wrong place, wrong time.
For that fact, I'm still the biggest Glacier mark in the world. I fucking love Glacier. I don't know why. It's embedded in my head. We never got a good Glacier figure. I always, anytime they're like, "What figure do you want?" I'm fucking Glacier, man. I want he's toyetic as hell. He looks the part. I loved it, man.
We need to get Glacier on this show. I think. What is Glacier doing? Let's get Glacier on the show.
We need to get Glacier on the show. He's part of the.
I think it's a thing. We need to find a way. Let's get in the comments, guys. Or you know what? On Instagram, tag Glacier in this. He has to be on social media. Tag Glacier.
I would kill to have Glacier on the show.
MLJ saw our video. We got it straight to Emil with GCW. Yeah. So this has legs, guys. Let's get Glacier on the show. We will take a break. Maybe he'll review his first match, and we can time it right. That would be great.
I'd be so happy. Just girl claps.
So with that being said, it's time to get our fix. Get your drinks ready, everybody, because we have a new little stipulation that you guys might want to participate with us. All right, so time to get our fix here. We're going to be reviewing WCW Nitro from April 22nd and April 29th. So our new stipulation here, and I think because WCW is infamous for their DQ finishes, I think we need to be punished or rewarded for it. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a little bit of both. So I have already set up my glasses. I know you have done the same. Shots of nostalgia. Every time there's a DQ finish and, for a shoot, hold on. Bottle of Bacardi right here for you guys. So this is a shoot right here. So lucky for us and lucky for you, this is our new stipulation. We'll make DQs fun here because DQs suck. Let's make them fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, so let's put the banner here. Beautiful banner on the bottom, April 22nd. So you can watch along with us. If you guys want to follow along, you guys can also put it on the background. Make sure you guys are following along with us. So the current WCW champs, as we take hold here in Albany, Georgia, as the Civic Center, we have Ric Flair as our world champion. He, of course, won it on February 11th, 1996. We have Conan, still our U.S. champion. He won it all the way back in January 29th, 1996. Lex Luger and Sting still holding on to those tag titles. January 22nd, 1996, they won them. And our TV champ is still Lex Luger. He won it on March 6th, 1996 from the aforementioned Johnny B. Bad. So we have Eric Bischoff, Bobby Heenan, and of course, the Emmy Award winning Steve Mongo McMichael at the desk introducing. So Bischoff gives us the Raw results to open. And this is the quote, and I thought it was really funny. Over at the World Whining Federation, the RuPaul impersonator Goldust defeats Savio Vega to retain the Intercontinental title. Yawn. Mankind defeats Aldo Montoya. Bigger yawn. Vader defeats Fatu. Oh boy. Only thing he missed when I looked up this week's Raw, he forgot the Godwin squash. So if you needed to watch Raw, Eric Bischoff, you didn't give me the Godwin's results. All right.
In his defense, it didn't sound that enthusiastic of a great show. So
no, it wasn't. And when you read it like that, bucket of slop. That's what it really was.
Bucket of slop.
All right. So we have our opening match. We have the American males defeating Public Enemy. Guess what? By DQ. So before we take our shot here, I'm going to give you guys the run of this match. So the American males getting a little bit of a push. They've gotten a few title shots. We've seen them in the past. We know that what Marcus Alexander Bagwell will become. Scotty Riggs gets a little shine too, post this little run here. So we get a hot tag to Riggs middle of the match. He drop kicks for everybody. It breaks down with Bagwell getting dumped over the top rope from Rocco Rock. He hot shots Bagwell into the guardrail and goes back into the ring to help Grunge toss Riggs over the top rope for the DQ. So afterwards, Riggs gets posted and set on the table for the enemy sandwich. Mongo does pop for the name, the enemy sandwich, which I haven't heard it called like that on TV. That's what it's going to be called forever for me.
It's good.
It was a good tag match. Again, hate the finish. The fact that it's a DQ sucks, but a nice opening match here to set the tone on Nitro. So it is a DQ, which means we have to take our shot of nostalgia. All right. We have matching green light.
We do. It's fate.
It's fate. All right. Cheers to the DQ.
Mortis, because the green glass.
All right. So that's one DQ. So if we have any others, again, I have shot glass. I got the bottle here. So drink along with us. It's Friday night, guys. Let's get going. It is happy hour. Well, we just passed happy hour. We're getting our fix right now, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So Gene Okerlund announces a few Battle Bowl tag matches for Slamboree. He announces Hugh Morris and Ming versus Barbarian and Bobby Walker, who eventually gets subbed for DDP later on. Stevie Ray and Big Bubba versus Scott Norton and Ice Train, and Ric Flair and Randy Savage versus Arn Anderson and Eddie Guerrero. They keep saying how random the drawings are. I just wish they would have done what they did. I think it was 2005 when they did the drawing for the Royal Rumble, that infamous skit, not infamous, the famous skit where Eddie Guerrero steals Ric Flair's number. I would have liked to see a little bit of this in the back of like, I can't believe we have to wrestle each other against these guys. Biggest takeaway, we get Randy Savage and Ric Flair wrestling, teaming together, take on Arn Anderson and Eddie Guerrero. That's got to be a banger match. I can't wait to see it.
How can that not be?
Yeah. I mean, the fact everything that Ric Flair and Randy Savage have gone through so far this year, the fact that they have to coexist, especially with how nuts we see Randy Savage has become, you know, it's going to be great. Next match here, we have Chris Benoit defeating Eddie Guerrero, and anytime these guys touch, it's just bravo. I mean, this match was great. Man, like probably not their best effort ever, but again, they go out there and steal the show every time, and Chris Benoit is continuing to show. I mean, what a shame that his career has to be almost forgotten because of what he did and all that. But when you see him in the ring, you just realize how great he was and one of the best in-ring performers of all time. And then, of course, Eddie Guerrero is amazing.
Likewise.
So this is the first time we've seen either one of these guys on Nitro in months. If you've noticed that, it's been a little bit. They've taken a break, but the fact that they're both on and they're wrestling together is a nice introduction back into the fold. So some great spots of this match. Bischoff does mention that Benoit losing to Otani in the Cruiserweight title tournament. They are acknowledging that he is playing that Wild Pegasus character under a mask, which was interesting because they never really did that. Yeah, they broke a little bit of the cage. So Meanwhile, Eddie manages to get to block a backbreaker and deliver a back suplex. Benoit hits a bridging German suplex, which is beautiful for 2. And at the time, these German suplexes, they could have ended matches. We are so used to them not even coming to close to end of the matches, but this was sort of new. These German suplexes, they were spammed for a bit during Benoit's run, and obviously Lesnar does them as well. No one does them better than Chris Benoit.
No, absolutely not. I mean, maybe Kurt Angle. Maybe.
Yeah.
But Benoit was on a whole different level.
And those triple German suplexes in the final release one.
Amazing. Yeah.
Man. So Guerrero wins the slugfest, and Benoit tugs on the tights and yanks Eddie to the floor. Back inside, Eddie flies in with head scissors for another near fall. Benoit stuck on the ropes, and Eddie tries a sunset flip, but Benoit blocks and grabs the ropes for the cheap win. So love this finish. Love this match. Kept both of these guys strong. This match there's a commercial break in the middle of the match, so that kind of sucked. We see that a lot on Dynamite and stuff. Match went 4 minutes and 59 seconds that it was shown. Probably went, I guess I'd estimate with the commercial break, another 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Commercial breaks can kill matches momentum. We've seen that. We have the picture-in-picture now, but it still sucks because it's hard to watch on the little screen.
It's worse than taking a commercial break.
They couldn't have put this during the next match here. Like they couldn't have figured out a way to put it during Jim Duggan and Ming, because this match definitely needed to be fully on TV.
And who needed to watch Jim Duggan and Ming?
Us, apparently, because we were doing the show, but that's the only people that probably watched it.
Yeah.
So Gene Okerlund brings out a suit from the higher ups at Turner, who tends to suggest that Randy Savage needs some psychiatric help if his behavior doesn't improve. They're really selling that Randy's going crazy over this Liz stuff and losing the title and everything's going down. What exactly is going to happen at SLAMBOREE now when they're teaming together with Ric Flair? How are they even going to coexist? Are they even going to make a tag together? That's why you have to watch the show.
That's why we love it, man.
Gene Okerlund was great here, man. He's like, sorry about that, Chief. Like, he just didn't know what to say. Randy did say, I'm going to blow up City Hall, which probably wouldn't go over well today in 2022.
No.
Yeah, so very weird, but Randy playing the character very well.
Crazy ass Randy. I love it. I'm here for it, man.
I love it. And we don't really Randy Savage is so good at what he does that sometimes it's like you forget, because when he was on TV consistently in this era, I'm sure you were like, you loved it, but you don't appreciate how good he is until you go back and watch things like this. He does the little things really well.
Yeah, no, I was watching the interview with him, and I don't want to break away too much, but he was sitting there, and the guy was talking to him and was like, "Oh, is what you guys do predetermined?" He's like, "Oh, what do you mean, sports entertainment?"
I did see that. It's a great video.
Just little aneurysms. He was just so fucking good, man. Good on the mic. Good with his posture. He put out a good place, man. Macho Man was just the greatest.
So good. It means Mount Rushmore type of talent that doesn't come along in the next 100 years. I don't think anyone will replace what he's done. So in our next match here, we have Jim Duggan defeating Ming. Not eventful. I mean, this match, they give it 6 minutes. It's longer than the Eddie Guerrero and the Chris Benoit match got on TV. So check it out. They're building Duggan up to get a title shot later on. Like, he's going to wrestle the Giant for the title, which no one will ever believe that. I actually, over my shoulder, I have a signed 2x4 by Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which I won't grab. Maybe next time I'll show it to you guys. I don't feel like having to undo all my stuff, but Jim Duggan gets the win here. He rolls out to the floor, tapes up his hand, and gets nailed in the face for the 1, 2, 3. Please, I beg you, no more of this type of match. Please, no more. I can't.
You can't kill Ming like that.
No,
Ming's too good to put him in a match. Jim Duggan, man, he should have been.
And we just know how tough, what a legit tough guy Ming is. To see him lose to Jim Duggan again, legend, first ever Royal Rumble winner. Like, his contributions can't be understated. But Ming, really, he's beating Ming.
Should have been Alex Wright. Like, come on, what are you doing?
Alex Wright's going to be on. He's going to be taking on Benoit on Saturday night. If you guys want some supplementary homework, check out the Saturday night in between these episodes. He's wrestling Chris Benoit, so that should be a good match.
I bet he gets his fucking ass kicked. I'm going to go watch it after we're done shooting.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've been watching some of the WCW Saturday nights because I can't get enough of I'm being serious right now. I'm loving
so good.
WCW is constantly on my TV as I go to bed.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have more Battle Bowl matches for Slamboree, courtesy of Gene Okerlund and a couple of girls by his side. They look like they have no idea why they are there. Alex Wright and Disco Inferno versus Earl Robert Eaton and Dick Slater, Lord Stephen Regal and Belfast Bruiser, who gets replaced with Squire David Taylor versus Jim Duggan and VK Wall Street. So they're trying to hype up the wacky randomness. It's just supposed to be crazy. If you look at the full card of this show, it's really messy. It doesn't age well. Maybe at the moment it felt like, oh, it's zany. We don't know what's going to happen. It's similar to Taboo Tuesday in 2004, where I guess in its moment it might have been fun, but it loses its zest and its effect here over the years, because I don't want to see the Road Warriors wrestling against each other.
No.
I want to see them tagging and beating someone's ass on the other side of the ring.
Yeah.
So we have our main event here, and guess what? We have the WCW World Tag Team Champion Sting and Lex Luger defeating Ric Flair and the Giant. And this match is bizarre because all three championships are on the line. We have the TV title on the line, the tag titles, and the world title all on the line in this match. There was no other finish here. They had to do a DQ. You're not changing the titles. And who's getting what title? I don't know.
It's a mess. Yeah,
it's a mess. Who's winning the world title? You're just going to say like Sting gets the world title, or Luger are they just going to share the title?
Maybe they fight for it at the next pay-per-view.
This is backyard wrestling booking. This right here is like, let's just do some fun match. 3 titles on the line. It's crazy.
Shitty indie booking.
Really, truly.
Yeah.
So there was some good stuff in this match. And again, these are 4 legends in here. Of course, we got Elizabeth Woman and Jimmy Hart at ringside. Go and check this match out. It definitely was great. It's weird that only the next week the Giant wins the title after he gets a shot in this capacity here, but he's teaming with Flair. It's bizarre. And I know they're flopping back and forth with the Giant and Flair being, or the Giant being
Friend
face and then heel,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So the ending goes here. We get more hot coffee. So the woman's got some coffee in her hands. Flair flips and press slams follow. Luger wants the torture rack, but Giant chokes him. Sting starts flying at him with chop blocks and finally gets Luger loose. Down goes Jimmy Hart with Giant down. Flair is all alone as Flair was trying to hide from the Giant in the corner. Giant gets to his feet and woman slips him the cup of coffee and throws it at Sting and Luger, but they duck and the coffee hits Giant right in the face and the ref calls for the bell. 7 minutes and 24 seconds of what the hell did we just see with the ending? Again, 2 weeks in a row, we get coffee in the face causing a DQ. We got Sting and Luger leaving. Flair's begging for forgiveness from the Giant. The Giant's very angry. He's fully against Flair now because of the coffee thing, and he wants a title match next week. So you spill some coffee in someone's face, you get a title shot. That's what you just taught me there, WCW.
I'm bringing coffee with me everywhere I go now.
So that being said, we do have a DQ finish, Mike Belcaster.
Oh,
all right.
Spooky juice. Let's do it.
Spooky juice. Okay. Shot in nostalgia.
That one tasted better than the first one, though.
Yeah, I think it gets better as we go on, but the DQs sometimes suck.
Yeah.
I gotta get Fireball for next time. That's what I gotta get next time.
I got Terramana. I'm drinking the rocks.
All right.
Whiskey, or tequila, because it's the people's choice, the people's champ, the people's tequila.
All right, so we have the show ends. Giant chases Flair away from the announce table. Nice little chaotic ending to the show. We build towards the main event for next week, which brings us to April 29th, 1996, from Albany, Georgia, the same place, the Civic Center. It was taped on the same night that this was filmed, so they got a double dip. This crowd here got a double dip, and they were alive for a lot of the show. It's
spectacular.
Yeah, so
we've seen rampages that were taped the same night as Dynamite. It's like, oh,
yeah,
no.
holding one eye open, all that.
Yeah.
So our champions remain the same. No one has changed, despite there being 3 titles on the line in the main event. We do have the opening match, but just want to note again, this was pre-taped due to most of the talent going to New Japan throughout the week. So most of these guys, after the 22nd, got on a plane, went to Japan, did their stuff there. And this is the first of, there's not many taped Nitros in the history of Nitro.
Yeah.
And they definitely don't have the same effect. Even like the fact we're watching this years later, you can tell it doesn't have the same energy that a live event would. And that's weird because
absolutely.
Everything's taped to us. We're watching it long in the past, but this felt like it didn't have the same energy. That's just me.
Yeah. No, listen, I was sitting at my grandma's chair. My dad was next to me. I was drinking a ginger ale or some wild shit and eating the fresh cooked popcorn. And I was like, Like I remember these tape shows. They were just like, oh, I'm gonna throw on Raw, their matches and switch. Like it was just like you knew you didn't have to care so much, so you got to check out the other product. Which, it sucks. Like nobody wants that.
I think that's what's truly missing from Rampage. When the Rampages have been live, it's must see TV. I don't care about the time slot, whether it's 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 10 p.m. I don't care.
I like them early. I love Rampage when it's at like 5 o'clock. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can fucking do dinner. And
the live one with Cole and Archer. Oh
yeah,
no, Cole and Hangman. The Hangman Easter match when they put the crown of thorns on Adam Cole's head. That was at like 6 p.m. Eastern over here. It was amazing. Yeah.
No, it was great. It was like, okay, cool. I get to kick off my Friday with something good, and then I can go out and get fucked up.
No, it's I don't know. To me, live is everything, and I think Bischoff had his finger on the pulse here that changed wrestling trajectory forever. I mean, if a wrestling show's not live, it's not for me, man. Like, because some of the tape stuff, SmackDown, I never watch Thursday SmackDowns. I just read the spoilers. Like when it's Friday and live, I kind of want to tune in, especially tomorrow. We have Riddle versus Roman Reigns. What's going to happen? I would just typically read the results. I'm going to tune in for the main event now. Rampage, I'm going to read the results because it's taped.
It's Roman Reigns' last match of the year, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But
watch it.
Just give the gimmick to Baron Corbin, though. He can handle it. It's no big deal.
He'll be able to work it, right?
No worries. Yeah, just Baron Corbin head the table, no problem. All right, so we have our opening match here. We have the WCW World Tag Team Champions Sting and Lex Luger defeating Harlem Heat. So this is a rematch from Saturday night where Jimmy Hart threw a towel in the ring to cost Harlem Heat the tag titles. So the brief relationship with Jimmy Hart and Harlem Heat makes no sense, really. They were trying to explain it by the commentators, but they didn't do a really good job. I think they just want to put Jimmy Hart with somebody and replace. Maybe they felt like Harlem Heat needed a manager. I don't know what the case is. I thought Stevie Ray and Booker T are charismatic enough to carry it on their own. They have such a presence about them. They don't need Jimmy Hart wearing a painted jacket. To me, no, it doesn't have a good fit.
No, agreed.
So Sting and Booker start us off. Booker nails Sting with a hook kick and gets turned inside out by a clothesline. This match ends here. We have let me go to the end here. Stevie Ray tags Booker in, and then for the bicycle kick that gets a 2, Sting runs in for the double KO spot with Booker T to set up the hot tag to Luger. Sting gets dumped over the top rope, leaving Luger alone for the powerbomb flying elbow combo from Harlem Heat. So here we go again. We got Jimmy Hart to throw in the towel again for Harlem Heat, but Booker catches it before the towel hits the ground and tosses out of the ring. Stevie Ray throws Jimmy Hart into the ring to Booker T, and Sting comes up from behind and schoolboys Booker for the 1-2-3. The tag division, to me, this should have been much, much better, but it got caught up with this whole Jimmy Hart stuff. It was completely unnecessary. But they're setting up Luger for later on in the year, and I'm okay with it. Match was good. Great opener for Nitro.
Absolutely.
Tag titles be online. You can't complain.
I mean, you got a 10-minute match, and I really dig the spot with him catching the towel and throwing it out before it hits the ground. Like, good stuff. If this would have been a way better match, Harlem Heat won. You know what I mean? It would have been like, what the fuck just happened? Like, he threw the towel. Holy shit, this is good. I'm like, fucking.
I don't know who's taking these titles off Sting and Luger. It feels like they've had them forever. They have. No, we've only had one set of tag champs for the full year. Yeah. And there's this tag division so stacked. It feels like a waste to have it on 2 singles guys. I don't know. It just feels like you should have like Harlem Heat would be great to have the titles right here.
Shit, give a small run to Public Enemy. It would have been fantastic.
Especially with what they're paying them and for the stars they were at the time. Like, I know that you and I are kind of ripping on the style of matches, but they were big stars coming out of ECW. They are enormous.
I didn't hate them. Like, it was just they were too gimmicky. That was it.
Yeah.
Their gimmick was always ECW matches. You know, it worked. It was good, but like, I mean, I would have loved to see them dabble a little bit more deeper into the well and try to pull out some fucking gold. Like, I think they could have made some good shit. Tag division would have been hot if we got, not Marcus Bagwell and Scotty Riggs, and we got Harlem Heat going for these titles and winning the titles. We're like, tag titles, I feel like, can be transferred a little bit more than your standard title. Like, you don't need a fucking year reign for a tag title every reign. Like it could go 3 months or 3 weeks, or it would be like, what just happened? Like,
Yeah, it begs the question, like, instead of and maybe the world title has a bigger impact, but like, why not change the tag titles instead of the world title? If you didn't feel strongly about putting the title on Giant, you could have changed the tag titles here and make people tune in. But I think that the world title resonates with people a little bit better. But why not do both? Just do both.
Yeah.
Just do both.
Well, no, like even with the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, they could have lost those 3 months ago, and nobody would have been like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they lost the title." Like it would have been like, "Hell yeah, let's go with it."
Yeah, I mean, I know you weren't on the wrap-up show, but my opinion, I thought the Hardys were winning the titles, and it got completely
Apparently,
busted
they were
up.
supposed to. Yeah,
That's what they said. I didn't even read anything like that.
No, there was lots of innuendo that changed beforehand, but I guess the Hardys were supposed to get their title reign for AEW at this moment, and shit happened.
Right.
But I mean, obviously the Bucks are the backup. This is still a great match. It doesn't take away from anything. I think it would have been worse if the Hardys were in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
no, it's just an interesting conversation, because now we're going to look back into the history of AEW. Maybe the Bucks would be the first 2-time champions, but maybe they wouldn't. Maybe FTR would have been the ones to take it off of the Hardys.
I would have loved if FTR got to fight the Hardys. That would have been a legendary match that we have not seen ever.
Yeah, and we won't. I don't think we're going to be able to see it.
I don't think we're going to get shit.
But what we do get to see is Rick and Scott Steiner taking on the debuting team of Fire and Ice. Before we get into this over here, do you remember Scott Norton as Fire and his tag partner Ice Train?
No.
And what were you? No, not at all.
No, not at all. It was this is probably when I threw on Raw, and I was like, "What's Goldust do?"
So again, debut for Norton and Ice Train as a team. Scott Norton spends more time on the roster. I don't believe Ice Train is long for this WCW roster. They lose here in their debut match. It shows what they think about him booking wise. The Steiners well deserved get the win. Norton takes Scott over the top rope to the floor and follows him while Rick levels Ice Train with the Steiner line. 1, 2, 3. Match goes 3 minutes and 26 seconds. It was sloppy as hell, but you would know it's not from the Steiners. It's probably from Fire and Ice. They're trying to get their feet under them. But another short match, and
yeah,
I kind of like it. I know we had the match before went 10 minutes, but some of these quick matches they hit right. And I know if we see it today, some of these matches that go short, you feel like it leaves a little bit missing. But I think in this timeline, short matches fit WCW.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like they need more of them, because there's like, I think we've covered Nitros where there's like, 15-minute, 10-minute matches back to back to back. I feel like you can squeeze a little bit more, kind of like what Rampage does. You squeeze a little bit more into it, maybe throw one more match in there, a short match, and make it work. This could have been a short match. This did not need to go as long as it did, but it was 3 minutes, but it could have went 2 minutes and had the Steiners just walk in and powerhouse the shit out of them, which I would have loved.
It's a depth team. This tag division's deep, so you have to have some developmental talent or talent that's enhancement talent, because especially not only do they have Nitro, but they have these house shows they're doing. They also have Saturday night. You need to have guys that are working matches. And we talked about being based in Orlando and eventually having this audience to work in front of. You need to have these matches where, similar to AEW Dark and Elevation, you have guys that work together to potentially build up stars. People got to get reps on these house shows. If you want a guy like, you want younger tag teams, you want the American males to work a team like Fire and Ice and not give away the match against the Steiners if you're looking forward to building a bigger match. So
absolutely.
I think on AEW, a lot of times they give away a lot of these big matches on Dynamite, and it's fun. It's great. But sometimes you need to have these matches where that the guy's going over, but it's just to have this exposure and a nice little, I don't know, I guess showcase would be the word.
Sure. Yeah, totally agree.
All right. So we have Gene Okerlund bringing out the WCW World Champion Ric Flair with two ladies. We know them as Elizabeth and Woman. So Flair looks as though he's about to cry in his way to the ring, knowing he's going to lose the belt. Usual stuff from Flair. And he said, "I'm going to beat that big dumb giant." So, man, we know this is the end of Flair's run, and we'll talk about it. I guess we'll give a nice little eulogy on Flair's run as champ and see what our opinions are as far as how effective it was.
Absolutely.
But for now, we're going to go into this next match here. And this right here might be my favorite thing I think I've seen on Nitro in 1996 so far. So we saw their match that they had a few months ago on pay-per-view. but we have Lord Steven Regal defeating Belfast Bruiser in a parking lot brawl. So we've seen similar parking lot brawls in wrestling history. I don't know where this stands in lineage of what came first, but this reminds me a lot of the Eddie Guerrero versus John Cena one from 2003, I think it was. But the way this was filmed, it, to me, had to be a response to that WrestleMania 12 backlot brawl with Roddy Piper and Goldust. This was only a month removed from it, or a few weeks. This was absolutely epic. And I'm not huge on matches out of the ring. There's sometimes that, matches they feel gimmicky.
Yeah.
This felt like they had a camera of two guys just beating the absolute shit out of each other. These guys.
Which I love. Yeah.
I love it.
No, akin to the Best Friends versus Santana Ortiz.
Yes, very true.
Fucking awesome match. This same thing could have gone another 3 minutes. I think this is where you could have took the couple minutes off of the Steiners match. This is the good shit. But I mean, this was awesome. Fucking top tier shit.
Dude, there was some wild stuff in this match. So as I mentioned, their first match was at Uncensored. This is the infamous match where Regal gets his nose broken, where Finlay won by DQ. So they're meeting out in the parking lot because Finlay loves to fight, as we became to know later on in his career. There's some crazy spots, as I mentioned. There was moves on top of cars. I think at one point, Finlay grabbed a brick and was threatening to hit him with it. And I for a second thought they might have actually pulled through with it.
It would have been over.
We had Finlay choking Regal with a seatbelt, and that was a cool camera angle. They had it through the window. Regal elbow drops Finlay on what appears to be a GMC Jimmy car. Finlay chokes Regal again, and they fight into the truck bed where both guys smash each other's heads on the roof. These cars are getting absolutely damaged. Another car window gets busted thanks to Regal, and Finlay drops an elbow on the hood of the car. Bischoff demands the director as the announcer to go, because it's becoming so gruesome. He demands it goes higher up, and that brought some realism to it as well. Regal tries a pile driver on top of the car, but Finlay backdrops him over, which he could have missed the top of the car. Like half his body was hanging off.
Yeah.
And then we get a pile driver again, and he hits it on top of the car for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Very stiff, very brutal. Pile driver on top of a car ends the match. No way to really fake that. 6 minutes and 13 seconds. This was every bit as advertised. I don't know if it was better than their uncensored match, but this was awesome.
I will put it up there. I will totally say, if you put both in comparison, this might be better. Just because the uncensored match ended in such clusterfuckery, I think that this is, you got a solid ending. You got good wrestling. You got two guys just beating the shit out of each other. I don't know. It's hard to take a pile driver. I've taken a DDT before. I almost broke my neck. And it was just me taking a DDT. Like, I stiff right into the ground. Like, you're fucking, it hurts. Like, the pile driver on a car, get out of here.
Wild. And
yeah.
I would love to pick Regal's brain about this match, or Finlay. And like, I'm going to do some research to see if I can find them talk about this. I know that Regal did that long-ended podcast with Jericho. This match was not mentioned. I think it gets forgotten as like a memorable match because he's done bigger things. Went on to wrestle at WrestleMania, defending the IC title. Finlay goes on to WrestleMania with the whole Finlay stuff. But man, this was a brutal match, and I think this stands the test of time. But
yeah, no, I mean, awesome.
We also the shirt that Regal's wearing too.
Shit out of each
other. Dude, that white shirt with the WCW Nitro thing, and the white shirt covered in blood. Eventually, it's just a cool optic, and like. Anytime a guy in wrestling is wearing white, you know there's gonna be some blood that goes on.
Eddie Kingston, that's my picturesque William Regal. Eddie Kingston, it was beautiful.
Yeah. All right, so now it's time for the main event here. We have the WCW World Heavyweight Championship on the line. The Giant with Jimmy Hart defeating Ric Flair with Elizabeth and Woman for a main event for a titles change. The match goes 5 minutes and 51 seconds.
Take my hair down for this.
This was kind of a glorified squash match of Ric Flair. And I understand you want to get Giant over, but it made Flair look like pretty much a big geek here. And he no-sold everything. The only time he got any offense is when he hit a low blow. And Flair was strutting around, went for the figure four after the low blow. And Giant just sits up, grabs him by the throat, choke slams him for the 1, 2, 3. He gets the face reaction because he's wrestling Flair. He is still a heel. Crowd, I guess, cheers the title change because they're like, holy crap, we just saw the title change hands. What is your take on this? And I guess put the final finishing touches on a Flair. To me, this is one of Flair's least memorable runs. He didn't seem like he had any sort of impact on me.
No, you know what? Rick says it himself so much that he is known as the best wrestler in the world, but he put over guys more than he won shit. Like, you know, he really did. He lost more matches than he's ever won. He was always great at taking bumps. I feel like this match sucked just because the Giant was still such a green kid. And I mean, like you said, 25 years old. It's a baby, dude. I couldn't even leave my house without calling my mom when I was 25 years old. You know, like I can't imagine this guy winning a world title from Ric fucking Flair. It's insane. But I get why they did it. Like I said earlier, it's one of those things it made sense. It was water cooler talk. Like, yo, I heard the Giants gonna beat Ric Flair, and like, what? Oh, no way, we're gonna all watch Nitro. You come over to my house, watch Nitro. We'll throw a Nitro party. I can't wait till we get to the era. Do we get to the era Nitro parties this year? I hope we do. But regardless, it could have been 1,000 times better. It was not terrible, but it was just, I don't know, man. It's cool that they put it on the Giant. I'm glad that they gave the title to a young kid. But, I mean, you can't have people throw Ric Flair around like nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with Giant going over strong, but like you said it best, you can't really. It's one thing to lose a match and look like you're just overmatched, but it's the other thing it was a glorified enhancement match. Like Flair really got nothing in as a world champion.
Now
and I know that people reference this run as Flair as being sort of a lost, you know, he was kind of lost here. He wasn't really, and later on WCW becomes worse, but yeah, there was no direction for Flair here. It felt weird. Like this was so far different than everything I remember of him in 1992 as the WWF champion. Like he felt special. He didn't feel special here.
I mean, when they brought him in the WWF, he was an attraction as it was. He's a nature boy. He was holding the big gold, you know, the blurred out, or was it the NWA title? Excuse me.
It was the big gold, yeah.
So it was the big gold, but you know, they made that scene huge. And it was just like, fuck, like, you know, this was, I don't think this was a lackluster run. I just think they could have done it a little bit better. And Ric Flair was getting paid and saying, okay, like, so it doesn't fall just on Bischoff and the Giant. Like, it's got a little bit to do with Flair. I mean, Flair could have fought for his spot in the card, but what are you going to do about it? You're just a nature boy. Like, you got to hold your own then. You should be the dad, you know?
They flirted with this a few months back before 1996, late 1995. They put the title on Giant. I think it was at Halloween Havoc, and they took it off of him because of the shady finish they had. So reminiscent of the Jericho thing where he beat Triple H on Raw, or the Moxley thing where he beat Triple H on I think it was Fastlane.
Yeah,
where you pull the trigger to see what the reaction would be like, and then you reverse the decision. They waited till the next night. Similar to, I guess, to Kane too in the first blood match where he was champion for like one night.
Yeah.
But this is his real first reign, and it goes for a while. We're in the seat, strapped in, ready for a Giant run, and he's gonna be on a run for a bit.
Yeah. And he does not do bad from my recollection. I will promise everybody watching that is the case. I mean, for being as young as he was, I mean, he solidified himself so well that I still was like, God damn, the Giant was one of the best characters in pro wrestling in my generation. I will say that to this day.
Yeah, he holds up very well, and I think this is a bigger picture thing for the Giant and for the Big Show. I think people, if they only watch his run in WWE, I don't think you can appreciate how far he's grown.
Not at all.
Since that moment, because the polished version that we see as the world champion in 2003. Where he's wrestling Lesnar in those classic matches throughout the summer. You know, the infamous spot where he takes the superplex and the ring breaks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He came a very long way, and the stuff he was doing, he helped build stars in WWE, and he's a legend. And I think you need to watch this run to really appreciate where he went eventually.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm telling you, you cannot be a Giant fan. You can't be a Big Show fan. You can't be a Paul White fan without appreciating all of it, because this led to when he debuted in WWF. this was the biggest shit in the world. That's why it was so important when he popped out of that ring and fucking threw Stone Cold through the cage. Like everybody was like, "What the fuck is going on? That's the giant!" Like they all went Tony Khan. Like, let's fucking go. That's crazy, you know. So it makes sense, man. But I totally agree with you. You have to appreciate this shit. This is where it comes from.
Yeah, and we'll see exactly where they go. And I'm not familiar with the rest of this run. I just know when it does end, and it just puts perspective of how long it does go, because I think he loses it to Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who's like well into the NWO run. So we're in for a ride. And I think he helps build other guys. Like I think winning the title, even though he's such a young guy, it helps the roster round out a bit, because he is an attraction at this point. And I know it's hard for people to see it because the Big Show is so overexposed that I think a lot of what we're seeing here in WCW, he's still a very big attraction for people that they want to tune in and check him out. Like, who's going to beat the Giant? He's 7 foot tall. Like, I don't know who's beating him.
I think that was the appeal for me too, because I was like, who's going to beat this big fucking guy? And when Hogan did it, it was like, what the fuck is going on? And like, it made the NWO. It really did. It made him that much bigger. You're like, what? Hogan beat the fucking Giant, and he, body slam, leg drop. It was his reminiscence. Dude, he beat Andre. He beat the Giant. The comparison is just fucking. Oh, it's great, man.
When wrestling ties together and the history lines up, it's awesome. So before we close up Nitro, the Giant gets on the mic. Well, Mean Gene puts the mic in his face. He addresses Hulk Hogan, Sting, Luger, Savage, challenge them all to bring it. With that, we're out of here. They're all done. And the thing is with when he says those names, it really brings into perspective of the guys on this roster that he's the champion. You got Hulk Hogan, you got Sting, you got Lex Luger, and you got Randy Savage, Ric Flair also as well.
Yeah.
And they choose this 25-year-old kid to be their champion. It just shows like that's a lot of faith to put in a young kid.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'll go back to it again. I didn't know whether to shit or wind my watch when I was 25 years old. I couldn't book a flight without figuring it out with my mom or my wife. I was like, oh, how do you do this? I don't understand. Like, fucking big props to him, man. We weren't all introverts in 1996, but goddamn.
And it makes me appreciate him on AEW Elevation. I think he's the announcer there because of how inspired Tony Khan is of WCW. He knows his history, like how much the Giant really helped the success of WCW. It's appropriate that he's there. And I know people are like, oh, they're just signing ex-WWE guys. No, on the contrary, he's a WCW guy to Tony Khan.
He's a fucking 25. How old is he got now? He's got to be like 52 right now, right? He's been in the business for over fucking 25 years. Legend, dude.
Big bastard could work, but we're going to move over to the Chaser, talk about our favorite matches the last 2 nights of Nitro. All right, for the Chaser, every week we'll pick our favorite part of the 2 nights of Nitro. So this is a hard choice. We got 2 good nights of wrestling. I'll let you start, Mike Belcaster. I have a feeling we have the same answer, but you go ahead and give me your best moment, match or segment.
Each show, I'm going first show, Benoit, Guerrero. That's always a pleasure. And second show, I am going with Lord Steven Regal versus the Belfast Brawl. I mean, you're four brother of the best goddamn wrestlers in the world doing matches 2 separate weeks. That's the attraction. That's the best shit ever. I want to watch the Belfast fucking brawler Bruiser versus Steven Regal again tonight because I'm so fucking pumped about it. Love that shit, man.
Good. So for my choice, I'm gonna agree with you. The Steven Regal Finley match was awesome and done so well.
Yeah.
And in comparison to that WrestleMania 12 backlot brawl, it just shows how influenced each company was. And I'm sure at the time, when you watch these separately, people don't realize that they're inspiring each other, but they really are. There was a lot of spots in there that were similar to the Goldust and Piper match we saw in Anaheim that year, same exact year, and they did it on Nitro. So it just shows the 2 different type of mindsets that WCW and WWF had at the time. WWF was like, you got to pay for it on pay-per-view. Bischoff and WCW were like, come over to Nitro. We got everything popping off. We got title changes. We got Brock and Brawls. You don't have to pay for it. We have pay-per-view matches. but you're going to get him on Nitro too.
Yeah, very, very much Tavern-esque. You know,
Yes.
you want good podcasts. You can come over to the Tavern.
Come over to the Tavern.
Best shit ever. Free, no charge. We'll give you high fives. We'll shoot you out. We love it.
And the runner-up, of course, is the Giant being champion. I think it was well deserved and a nice breath of fresh air because I felt the title was a little bit held hostage in this Ric Flair situation. It didn't feel like a world title because I don't know why. It just didn't resonate with me.
Macho Man had that short run.
Yeah.
That sucked. You know, he should have had Macho Man must be the most underrated talent in the world. I swear. Like even he gets his flowers, but he didn't have the length of a career, the length of titles, the length of everything. I feel like he could have ran with that for another month. Why not have the Giant beat Macho Man?
Right.
You know, we didn't need this Ric Flair part 2.
We didn't need Liz as a heel either. Like I don't know how much she really adds to it either.
Yeah. But I applaud you for the Giant thing because it's revolutionary. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, also putting the faith in a young guy, that's not something typically a company, especially that with the TV deal, would do. A lot of the veterans would do the thing. And for everything that WCW got, shit on for, taking old talent and not building new stars and relying on the past and the relics and dinosaurs, blah, blah, blah. Their champion right here, he's 20-something years old. So it's not on Hogan. It's not on Savage, not on Flair. It's on their young kid that they want to strap the rocket to and justified.
Yep, absolutely. And it wasn't just to do it for no reason. I mean, as we just said, this is a long reign he's about to partake on. Fucking, it's an awesome reign, too. This is where I fell in love with the Giant. So
and legitimizes the NWO too. Like when Hogan, it's not like they give the title to Hogan; they build the Giant up to a big spot where you feel like he's unbeatable. And then when Hogan finally beats him, it's like, oh fuck, that was WCW's last hope. Yeah. And of course, we see eventually the Giant does join the NWO, which is another huge spot to them. But we'll get there, my friend. But it's time to close the tab because guess what? They're turning on the lights. We had our 2 shots of nostalgia. You guys got
more
your
than
fix
that.
in, got your happy hour in. But the girl that you've been talking to at the next to the jukebox, the lights on. It's like, what is going on? You got to get out of the bar though. You don't got to go home, but you just can't stay here, guys. Get your Friday started. Let's close the tab.
Yeah.
All right, we're here closing the tab. Next week's show is going to be June 24th, 2022, and we will be talking about WCW Nitro from May 6, 1996 and May 13th, 1996, and that's our go-home show before SLAMBOREE. So that will be episode 10 on our journey through. And believe it or not, we have a schedule on Instagram if you guys want to check it out. I believe this run will take us all the way to the beginning of November, so strap in, guys. If you are new to this, hop in where we are, catch up, binge the WCW Nitros, binge our episodes. They're quick, digestible. At this point, they're still only an hour long, so without commercials, it's like 44 minutes or something.
It's the best.
So on episode 11, will probably be a longer episode on our part because we have a pay-per-view to review. That will be on the 1st of July, believe it or not, WCW SLAMBOREE 1996, and we have the 20th of May, the Nitro. So if you want to see the full schedule, I won't inundate you with information. Check out my Instagram page. We have the schedule set up. Looks like a 90s tour of like the Eagles or something with all the dates and all the events we'll be covering. So if you're looking for a certain time period, like you want to just pop in for that Bash to the Beach episode, it's coming.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you when. And it's almost going to line up in that mode of the summer. So we're going to get there, guys. Just like strap in and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
So Mike Belcaster, what is going on in your tavern life? Get your shit in, my friend, and just hype up everything that's going on your end.
Tavern life. We're just rocking and rolling. There's no sessions today. We postponed it. I was traveling. It was a long trip. So I know big teardrops from the big guy. Yeah. So Fig Night next week. We got Fig Heel on, and he's made the most beautiful checklist for pro wrestling action figures, dating all the way back to the very first pro wrestling action figure, going all the way up until now. Jazzwares, Super 7, you name it, Mattel. This book's 500 fucking pages long, 500 plus, it's like 538. It's huge. So make sure you guys tune in. We're going to be asking him all about how he put it all together, all the work he put into it. I would go insane trying to figure this shit out. This guy made it proper checklist too. Like it's like mock loose, AWA Romco's, ECW original San Francisco toy makers. I fucking love it, man. And if you're part of the Shot of Nostalgia crew, you can check off your Toy Biz toys that way. So make sure you check out Fig Night this Tuesday. So that's gonna be good,
dude, and good deal too. I'm a listener of Fig Night. I love what you guys do over there, and congratulations to the Wrestling News.
Yes.
You guys being an affiliate, that is well deserved. Straight off the heels of Double or Nothing reveals, all the hard work that you, Tom, and Nick put into Fig Night, it's well deserved, and you guys are killing it. You guys did such a good job of covering the toys at Double or Nothing in Vegas. Ran yourself ragged, but you did it all for the love of figures and the Tavern, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a lot of special guests coming up, so make sure you tune in. I mean, some big guys. I don't want to drop big hints, but the Godfather, and I'll leave it at that. The Godfather himself we've been in talks. We might be doing some contract signings. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Let's see. I mean, you know what? You guys have to stay tuned, and you have to check it out. Go and check out that the Amazon page for that book. It is well worth it. $40, I believe. Like the amount of work that went, that should be $140. Like that is how good the book.
Yeah, and the best way to look it up is Fig Heel's complete wrestling figure checklist.
Yeah, that will be a must-listen episode on Fig Night. That is Tuesdays at what time you guys going on live?
Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4:30 in the morning Australian. I don't know. Nick Storm is a goddamn workhorse. I love the kid so much.
Yeah, and so on my end over here, again, you can find me full-time here. Shot Nostalgia, Fridays at 8 p.m. where we were going through. This is my favorite time of the week, full disclosure. But also, I'm on the AEW Wrap-Up Show full-time now, so you catch me on Wednesday nights, 10:30 on Twitch. Check us out on Twitch because it goes a long way.
Yeah.
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you consume the Tavern, I'll be there on Wednesday nights, arguing about the All-Atlantic title being a thing, going out there. And
I'm in your corner.
Yeah.
All right.
I needed you. I needed you so bad this week, and I'm going to be happy to have you back next week.
Man, if I wasn't already asleep by the time you guys I would have been down, man.
But you know what, guys, I really appreciate you joining us here. If you guys want to support the Tavern, and I know you probably do, the turnbuckletavern.com is where you can find us. We have everything we need here. Not going to do too much shield billing, but you can find out everything here. And maybe you want to buy a shirt. Where can you get a shirt? ProWrestlingTees.com. You can buy the official Shot of Nostalgia shirt. That purple really pops. Or support the Tavern Daddies as well. Support us. Check out the Tavern Daddies. Is the two bad Chads with Ricky Steamboat, Dustin Rhodes, and Brian Pillman. Man, epic shirt. Go out and buy it. Great shirt.
Yeah.
And also, maybe Pro Wrestling Tees is not your thing. Teespring also has some shirts. You can get the Kevin Sullivan Anti-Taskmaster shirt. I wore that shirt. I got complimented in the grocery store for it. I think they just like the face paint on Kevin Sullivan. There's no way that this 60-year-old lady knew who Kevin Sullivan was, but maybe she does. Who knows?
Maybe she was the old lady that was in the front row at Nitro for like half this year.
Yeah,
so.
Who knows? So go ahead and check these shirts out. Support the Tavern any way you can. The least you do, leave a 5-star review. And if you do leave a 5-star review, I will send you some stickers. I got brand new stickers coming with my brand new logo. That was made by Extra Cooler. Shout out to him, Matt and Nick over there at Extra Cooler. Great podcast. But the art that Nick made me is absolutely epic. I really appreciate the hard work he put into it. So I have those new stickers. I even have some throwback stickers, and I know Mike has the Tavern stickers.
I not many. So I mean, I showed out in Vegas, but I have a stack left. So if you guys do need those reviews, hit a brother up like Bret Hart. Hey, come on.
But man, this is always a blast. And you know what? We leave you with this. Have a safe weekend, everybody. We appreciate you watching this. We appreciate all the support of the Tavern. For the ace of the Tavern, for Mike Belcaster, tip your bartenders. We'll see you next week. We got to go.